The human being has invented a great diversity of machines from the most complicated and difficult, such as airplanes, cars, trains, and computers. But nevertheless, man, being a complicated machine, does not know how to manage or govern himself. The human machine is a precious machine with 5 marvelous psychophysiological centers. The order of these centers is as follows. The intellectual, located in the brain. The motor center or movement, located in the upper part of the spine. The emotional, which is found in the solar plexus and in the specific nervous centers of the great sympathetic. The instinctive, located in the lower part of the spine. The sexual, located in the genital organs. When one deeply observes oneself, one comes to the conclusion that each one of the 5 centers pervades the entire organism, and nevertheless has its capital basic point somewhere in the human machine. Each one of the 5 centers of the machine has specific, absolutely defined functions. An in-depth study of the 5 centers allows us to understand that there is a difference in speed between them. Some believe that the center of thought, or the intellectual, is extraordinarily fast, and they are wrong, because the motor and instinctive centers are 30,000 times faster. We have been told that the emotional center is still much faster than the motor and instinctive centers. The first center, the intellectual center, is related to all the reasoning processes of thought in general. It is the slowest center, and therefore, an infinity of undesirable elements are manifested through it, generally related to the lower imagination and pernicious fantasy. We must put a stop to the infinity of thoughts that constantly assail us, preventing us from the best concentration in the different acts of our lives. Excessive wear and tear on the energy of this center causes mental and physical disorders, which ultimately turn into madness, schizophrenia, hysteria, etc. Prolonged reading for hours is detrimental to this center. Reading must be balanced with the action of the motor and emotional center. Walking, breathing deeply, listening to soft music, meditating, help not to wear out this center. The motor center. Our wrong habits, bad customs, and vices belong to this center, which we must discover and understand in depth in order to be aware of our actions. We must not allow our life to continue to unfold mechanically. Daily, at every moment, we repeat events, scenes, habits, customs, and mistakes. If we really want to know ourselves and change internally, we must start by observing our mechanical reactions to all those little details in our daily lives, what we say, do, think, and feel. Habits belong to the center of the movement. Sports in general also belong to this center. The abuse of the activity of the motor center leads to the deterioration of the parts of the physical body, or to the partial or total invalidity of the organism. Our movements should be rhythmic. When the mind interferes with this center, it obstructs and damages it because the mind is very slow and the center of movement is very fast. A man driving a car could suffer an accident if the mind were to intervene, since the intellect is slower than the motor center, and at a time when we have to react quickly, we cannot stop to think. Emotional center. It is closely associated with emotions and feelings of various kinds: pain, joy, sadness, melancholy, euphoria, hatred, anger, revenge, selfishness, fear, self-pity are just some of them. We spend the energy produced by this cylinder in abuse of negative emotions produced by television, movies, pornography, social networks, the press, ultra-modern music, boxing, fights between animals and other activities, as well as in the criticism, gossip, rumors, lies, fears, jealousy, anger, and a parade of many other defects. We can be watching a movie, and we are laughing at one moment, crying the next. All this causes an imbalance in the emotional center and wears it out. Two people can react to a representation of everyday life in very different ways. What is pleasant for one person is unpleasant for another. It all depends on how the impression received from the outside world is channeled. The emotional center is our receiving antenna for all impressions from outside. When we receive a strong impression, it is recommended to cover the solar plexus with the hand in order to reduce the impact of said impression, and thus avoid damaging the emotional center. Instinctive center. It is the center with the most activity. For this reason, it is the most intelligent center of the human machine. It is related to all the physical chemical assimilation processes, tasting, digestion, blood circulation, etc. Instincts such as self-preservation, sexual, as well as the maternal and paternal instincts correspond to this center, however. Also at the bottom of every human being, there are subconscious and infraconscious forces, brutal inclinations such as the criminal sense. The instinctive functions of this center consist of making each of our organs work correctly. Sexual center. It is definitive for the life of the human being. It is not only in charge of producing the sexual energy for the reproduction of the race, but it is essential for the life of the cells and the health of the physical body, the psychological balance, and especially to achieve the superior state of man and woman. Sex can free man or enslave him. We need to transcend the mechanics of sex. Abusing it leads to the ruin of all our physical cosmological values. The sexual center is the seat of our vital physical energy. We improve the quality of our life and prolong it if we achieve the balance of these cylinders, avoiding unnecessary wear and tear on them, using common sense, for example. If we have been in front of the computer for hours, we are already wearing out the intellectual center. For on the other hand, our mind constantly changes subject to the battle of the opposites, and as a consequence, negative emotions and instincts such as fears, desires, anger, hatred, revenge, and many other negative feelings and actions are produced. If we see a beautiful house, we get the desire to possess it, and when we don't get what we want, we feel anger, frustration, and envy. Or we can believe that having money we will be happy, and yet there are many rich people who are unhappy and are not free from suffering. Every certain time we must put another cylinder into activity. It can be listening to classical music for a few moments, or doing a little relaxation or meditation, doing some physical exercises, going for a walk, doing some social work or something that you like to do. We must practice non-identification, live in the moment, locate ourselves in the present place and space without past or future. In Tibet, it is said that there is a very interesting Buddhist monastery. There the monks last from 400 to 500 years of life. But it is that they know how to handle the emotional center, the intellectual, the motor. When they get tired with the intellectual, they continue with the emotional. When they get tired with the emotional, they continue with the motor. And in this way they maintain their energy. They do not exhaust their vital values. Learning to live from moment to moment is what is recommended. Living from moment to moment, without worry of any kind, without creating problems. When you learn to live from second to second, from moment to moment, without planning for the future and without the painful burdens of the past, you see life from another angle.